Okay, this is the third lesson under division and differentiation. This is the final lesson for this little topic, and this one's entitled Cell Division. So we've looked at the differentiation aspect of this topic. We've talked about stem cells. We've talked about the different types of stem cells. And we've talked about how a stem cell, an unspecialized cell, can go through this process called differentiation in order to become a specialized cell. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the division part of this topic. And there are two main types of division in the body called mitosis and meiosis. We're going to look at those. And we're going to look at two different types of cell, somatic and germline cells. And we're also going to look at what happens when cell division goes wrong in the body. So just take a minute or so, have a read through this slide, have a read through the learning intentions. These are the key points that we want you to take away from the lesson. Come back to this slide. If you've got questions, if there's things that you don't understand, come back to this slide and use these points to try to put together some questions to ask your teacher. So there are two main types of cell in the body. There's somatic cells, which is the majority of cells in the body, and there are germline cells. So all differentiated cells that have nothing to do with reproduction are called somatic cells, and all somatic cells are diploid. So diploid is a key term. It's a word that you should have come across in National 5 biology. So just pause the video, take a minute or so to have a think. Can you rack your brain? Can you think, what does the term diploid mean? And how is a diploid chromosome complement maintained during cell division? So a diploid cell is a cell that contains two sets of chromosomes. So in a human being, which is all we're really concerned about in human biology, in a human being, a cell that's diploid contains 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs of chromosomes, two sets of chromosomes. One set is 23, the second set is 23. So altogether, there are 46 chromosomes in a diploid cell. How is that maintained? How is that chromosome complement of 46 maintained during cell division? Well, we've covered cell division already. We've covered it in National 5 as well. But there's a diagram on the slide here showing cell division. And the second stage is key, really, because where the DNA replicates itself, makes a copy of itself before the actual division takes place. So just revise this if you're not sure of it, but you should be aware of the stages. You should be able to describe in quite a lot of detail the stages of mitosis. So like I said, the majority of cells in the body are somatic cells. The other type of cell in the body are called germline cells. And these are cells that eventually go on to form gametes or sex cells. So the gametes that we would talk about in the body, in the human body, would be the sperm and the egg. The gametes are not the germline cells. The gametes go on to form, sorry, the germline cells go on to form the gametes, or have the potential to go on to form these gametes. Germline cells are diploid. So just like somatic cells, they have two sets of chromosomes. And germline cells can divide by mitosis, just like somatic cells. So when a germline cell divides by mitosis, it produces more germline cells, again with 46 chromosomes in them, because it will maintain the chromosome complement. So have a think about the question at the bottom. So we've said that germline cells can undergo mitosis and produce more germline cells with 46 chromosomes in, diploid. But germline cells can also produce gametes. So how do we know that it's not by means of mitosis? How do we know mitosis does not result in gametes? Pause the video and have a think. Well, the answer is that mitosis always results in a maintenance of the chromosome complement. So if you look at the diagram of mitosis, you have what's called a mother cell at the start, which has 46 chromosomes inside it, 2 sets of chromosomes. It undergoes this cell division of mitosis, and it produces 2 new daughter cells that are identical to the mother cell, containing the chromosome complement of 46. Now, if we're producing a gamete or a sex cell, we know that gametes or sex cells are haploid. Haploid means that the cell contains 1 set of chromosomes. So in the case of a human being, that would be 23 chromosomes. Now that's important, isn't it? Because if you think about reproduction, when Sammy sperm meets Emma egg, well, it's important that the gametes contain half the genetic information, because when reproduction takes place, when the sperm fertilizes the egg, well, that zygote needs to have 46 chromosomes in it. So it needs to have 23 from the sperm, 23 from the egg, which join together to fuse to form the zygote with 46 chromosomes in it. So another process must take place in order to produce gametes, and that process is called meiosis. So this is a key point. This is important that you understand. Germline cells can actually divide by mitosis and or meiosis. They can do either, depending on what it is that they're doing. So if a germline cell divides by mitosis, it will produce more diploid germline cells. If a germline cell divides by meiosis, it will produce haploid gametes. The difference between mitosis and meiosis, again, just a repetition. Mitosis, you start with a mother cell, and it results in 2 new cells, 2 new daughter cells that are identical to the mother cell, diploid. Meiosis, you start with a mother cell, and after meiosis, at the end of meiosis, you end up with 4 cells that are produced, but they are not identical to the original cell. They are haploid. They have half the genetic information in comparison to the original cell. So I'm just going to try and explain briefly and quite simply this process of meiosis. You might need to just rewind the video a few times and go over this a few times just to get it in your head. So inside the cell, if it's undergoing meiosis and it's going to become, or they're going to divide into gametes, the first thing that happens is that the chromosomes pair up. So inside a cell, there are 46 chromosomes, and the homologous chromosomes will pair up. So on the diagram here, we've got 1 pair, 2 pairs, 3 pairs, and if the screen was big enough, we would carry that on 4 pairs, 5 pairs, 6 pairs, all the way down to 23 pairs. So there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you kept going for those 23 pairs, you would end up with 46 chromosomes lined up. The next stage is that the spindle fibers get involved, and they divide or split up the homologous pairs. So again, imagine this, there are 23 pairs of chromosomes lined up along the center, along the equator of the cell. The spindle fibers attach, and they start to pull towards the poles, the North and the South Pole. So pause the video, just have a think for a moment. You've got 23 pairs of chromosomes lined up along the center, along the equator. This is the first division that takes place. How many chromosomes are going to move to the left, and how many chromosomes are going to move to the right? Pause the video and have a think. Is that what you got? So 23 chromosomes will move to the left, 23 chromosomes will move to the right. Now, the next division takes place. So again, this is a second division taking place, and this time the chromatids get separated. So you can see that each chromosome is made up of two chromatids held together by the centromere, which is the yellow blob. Again, spindle fibers get involved and pull the chromatids apart. So again, 23 chromosomes here lined up, 23 chromosomes here lined up. These 23 chromosomes will have their chromatids pulled apart. Same with these 23 chromosomes here. So you end up with 23 chromosomes here in this cell, 23 chromosomes here in this cell, 23 chromosomes in this cell, and 23 chromosomes in this cell. So in effect, what's happened is we've gone from having one cell which had 46 chromosomes inside it to now having 4 cells, each of which now have 23 chromosomes inside. We now have 4 haploid cells. Okay, so we've just described this process here, and you can see that there are 2 divisions basically that take place. The first division is the homologous pairs getting separated, and then the second division is the chromatids getting separated, and the result are these 4 haploid cells of 4 gametes that have been produced. So mitosis is a natural process. It's an important process that takes place in the body. It's important for growth and for repair. But sometimes it can go wrong. Sometimes the cells can grow in an uncontrolled manner. The cells don't respond to regulatory signals. And this is basically what happens when cancer occurs. So a growth of cancerous cells is known as a tumor. There are 2 main types of tumor, cancerous tumor. There's benign and malignant. So a benign tumor is one that generally grows slowly and doesn't move around the body. It doesn't invade other parts of the body. And so it's generally easier to remove and easier to deal with. A malignant tumor tends to grow quickly, and it does tend to invade other tissues and can spread to other parts of the body through the bloodstream. So make sure you know the difference between benign and malignant tumors. Make sure you also know what a cancerous cell is as well. Okay, there's some tricky aspects of this, particularly the process of meiosis. So take your time, pause the video, have a go at these questions. If you're struggling, go back to the original slide that had